Well, all eyes are on Zynga, and they're waiting. It's been widely expected the maker of online games like Farmville and Mob Wars would file for an IPO this week, valuing the company at more than $20 billion. But it has not submitted that paperwork yet. For a closer look, I want to bring in angel investor Bob Rice of Tangent Capital Partners. Bob, great to see you again.
Good morning.
Why do you think they're waiting, or it seems like they're waiting?
Well, I think that they've got a couple of announcements that they're trying to get in order, that they'd like to get into this before they go into their quiet period and let everybody know about. New distribution deals is what I understand are in the works here. The flip side is that there's some pressure for them to hurry up because there are some pretty big competitive threats on the horizon.
Like what?
Well, Google Plus has just been launched, and it's proving very popular in the first few days. Anyway, people seem to really love it.
Is it? Is it really?
Yes, it is. It may be that Google actually finally gets social networking right. That would be a shock. And in that platform is going to be, at some point fairly soon, a social games network. And so, that's a fairly big risk. And there are some other things happening even with Twitter right now that also pose some risks down the road to Zynga, and how popular games like Farmville are going to continue to be as the overall environment changes so rapidly.
You mean that Twitter will eventually start integrating online gaming as well into their platform?
Right. One of the stories in the technology industry that hasn't received enough attention from my point of view is that Apple has really gone way out of its way to integrate Twitter deeply into the new Apple mobile operating system that's going to be coming out this fall on the new iPhones in September. And this is going to allow all of those thousands and thousands and thousands of Apple developers to directly incorporate Twitter characteristics in the data feed right into their apps and into their games. And so that could really change the environment here very dramatically, especially as computing use moves more and more to mobile. How Twitter being embedded in all these apps is going to change the gaming environment, and also many other kinds of things like news feeds.
And this is all points to the trend that we've seen with these social gaming companies, is that they're really developing rapidly, right? It's almost changing by the dozen. I would say week by week, month by month.
Precisely.
So for Zynga then, I mean, are they almost too late if they wait a few more days by filing? Because almost every single day you hear about a new company filing for an IPO.
Well, it's hard to say that a few days is going to be a big detriment.
Maybe I'm exaggerating.
Your point is exactly right. This is a very immature industry. It's mature. It's changing extremely rapidly, as we were just talking about. What happens when Twitter can go into Angry Birds, for example? I mean, what's going to happen to gaming at that point?
Right.
And so, if you are projecting, as the valuation for Zynga currently would have you believe, that their success is going to continue for many, many years, and they don't really have any proven massively popular games like, for example, The Sims that Electronic Arts has put out that's really proven to be a durable franchise. You really have to wonder in that environment whether this valuation can be justified.
And the reason why I also point that out is that, I just came back from Chicago, and obviously, all the venture capitalists there are looking at Groupon, and Groupon has become sort of this Silicon Valley there, has established a Silicon Valley in Chicago. But a lot of people were talking about the IPO, and I was talking to some of the bankers, and they were saying, who are part of this IPO, and they were saying, look, it looks like the IPO is slated for September, October, that's when they're going to launch this. However, there's some concern that window is now narrowing, and that maybe they might have to move this IPO up. And if Groupon's feeling that pressure, then anybody else who's looking to file is feeling that pressure as well.
Sure, and there are analogous pressures. I mean, Groupon's got Living Social coming up like a rocket, and, the reality is, ever since they announced this IPO, the press has kind of been turning against them a little bit. They're super creative, for which they get a lot of points, coming up with really interesting new accounting terms to explain why they really are making money, despite appearances to the contrary, I think is really attracting some press that's not so positive. So they're probably in an interesting period here where they do want to rush.
And Living Social, by the way, whose valuation is not far behind Groupon.
Precisely. This is the thing that people don't take enough account of, I think, in all of these technology IPOs, LinkedIn included. I mean, which is trading at something like a PE right now of 2,482 and a half as of last night. My goodness, where's this coming from? It's coming from the idea that these companies are totally disruptive and they're going to change the way we do things. Okay, but they themselves are subject to being disrupted.
Right.
And that's the half of the equation that a lot of the analysts aren't looking at.
It sounds a lot like what Warren Buffett talks about, which is what are these companies and what is the moat that they have around them, right? And what you're saying is that Zynga perhaps doesn't have a very big moat if others can really, pretty much disrupt their model then.
Either that or a lot of people have bridges.
Exactly. Good analogy. Thank you, Bob. Great to see you as always.